This is the fastest bow I've tested, hands down. It's not even close. Like, it's wild. 351 feet a second. I've never shot a bow at 5 grains a pound through that chronograph setup that ever did that. PSE Sicario, Mexican Hitman. Still to this day, as far as I know, PSE makes the only carbon fiber bows on the planet. Thank you, PSE, for US-made carbon fiber bows. Now, before we go any further, support your local pro shop. Go down to your local store. You need them, they need you for longevity. It's a necessary thing. Do not buy it from me, which most flagship bows you can't buy from me anyway. But if you're going to buy online, and only if you're going to buy online, podiumarcher.com for all those archery needs. $99 and up is free shipping, and coupon code MFJJ might save you a little bit of money. Now, pretty much a completely different bow. This has a different riser on it than the 30 or the 33 did. And a new cam system, the FDS cam. This is fast, so I'm told. Haven't shot it, haven't drawn it, don't have any ideas. And we also don't have the published specs 100%, just what came on the card, so we're guessing that they're going to call this a 3.9 pound bow, because I don't have the physical weight listed. I've sent a request for the information, but we had to get rolling, so hopefully that's right. We won't dock you for it being slightly off or something like that, but the ATA on this bow is 33 inches and the brace height is 5 1/4. Why is the brace height 5 1/4? Well, one, short brace heights will tend to give you more speed, and PSE believes in dynamic brace height on their factor of forgiveness. I will do a dynamic brace height video and have an attempt to test this against actual torque, which is what I believe that is the design of, or the premise of. The higher your dynamic brace height, the less torque you have. I've been developing a way to measure that isn't actually physically measuring the... I've been working on a way to accurately measure torque, because at the end of the day, dynamic brace height, reflex, all that crap shouldn't mean anything if the bow's torquey or not. They're all references on a way to measure that. So I figured, why not just find a way to pull on it and see how much it takes to move it. So I kind of created what I'm calling the Torque-O-Matic 5000. We're not going to use it as a category score this year, but we are going to measure every bow, and then you guys can tell me if you think that should be in these bow reviews or not. Two, we're also adding a new measurement. We're not doing 28 inches anymore. We're doing 29, not 28, period. So we're going to take the bow from 30 and move it down to 29, not 28. So just a 1 inch change. And we are going to also measure that bow at 65 pounds, 29 inches, with a 450 grain arrow, what we're calling realistic arrow speed. It's something I would really like you guys to emphasize to your shops, to manufacturers if you talk to them. We want, in the long run, manufacturers to measure a realistic speed. Something you think you're actually going to get out of your bow when you test it, instead of these hyper-inflated things where almost no one is going to shoot the bow at 5 grains a pound and 30 inches. But they're still measuring that, so will we. Instead of doing the 450, 70 pounds, we're going to drop it down to 65, just so you know. We'll still measure it at 72, but we're going to give that official. And I would really like you guys to emphasize that one, because it's really relevant to everybody. All right, so without further ado, let's measure some stuff. Looking at this over, I don't see any other changes. This is a slightly more reflexed riser, I believe, and it's in between the 30 and the 33, even though this measures 33. The Mach 33 has a shorter riser, so this has probably a little bit more of a forward-facing limb, would be my assumption. And then this cam is on all the carbon bows. So once again, thank you PSE for making a US-made carbon fiber bow, and under $2,000. Now, it's a penny under $2,000, but it's still under $2,000. Let's measure some stuff. Not to emphasize a imported product, but this toolbox was from Harbor Freight, and it was 350 bucks. So it's like 48 inches. It's got 9 drawers on the front of it. You can put everything you possibly want to put on it. Use a floor-mounted or a bench-mounted vise and a bow press and a draw board, and you're good to go. And it kind of holds everything. So it seemed like a better option than a floor stand. So we're going to start with our axle to axle, which is supposed to be 33. So I'm going to go to the far side of the screw there. And that looks like just over 33. Looks like 33 1/8 to me. Let's measure our brace. Let's say 5 1/4 is correct. 5 1/4 brace. All right, let's measure our riser length. 27 1/2. Looks like it's got about 3 inches of reflex in it. Right there. Okay, so we usually give 2/10 for the rest. So that's going to be at 4. We guessed it was 3.9. It could be 4. I don't know. But that's what we're going to call it, is 4 pounds. Very good. So there's not a bolt hole on this side of the riser to compare, but that's 30, and that's the pivot point. So I'd say this bow's probably really measuring out about 30 1/4, 30 1/8 to 30 1/4, somewhere in there. All right, so we got 30 we're gonna call it 30 1/4. PSE Sicario, Mexican Hitman, 70 pounds, 30 inches, 350 grain arrow. We're looking for 350. Hold on, it's on the card here. 357. Whoops. Let's hope it doesn't do that when I try to draw it. All right, here we go. Okay, that's my first time drawing it, so don't try to judge. I think I'm gonna have to pull those cards off there because it's gonna smack that. Don't try to judge how harsh that looked. I try to draw the first one really slowly so I can feel it all the way through. Hang on. .351, 350. That is fast as boy. That crushes anything we've tested before. Like it really does. That being said, like that is a tiny little brace height. Like my little 2-inch blazer is sitting on there and touching. So you're gonna have to be real selective. If you're gonna use a cock-up style rest on this bow, you're gonna have to be really selective of what vanes you use and how you orientate them, because it may touch your launcher. That being said, the bow did not feel torquey, which we'll put it in the Torquematic 5000. We haven't done that yet for you. But that is easily the fastest thing I think we've ever tested. Not even close. And the draw force curve is full, like all the way through, but it's not horrible. Like I would think a bow shooting that kind of speed would feel worse than this. 351, again. Do things fast. Now, I mean, we haven't tested a whole bunch of 5 1/4 brace height bows, but the last time I shot a 5-inch brace height bow, which I take that back, the RS was like 5 inches if I remember right, but normally you'll feel it nicking your arm somewhere. And I'm wearing a hoodie, which I almost never do, and it's not even nicking the hoodie, so it's stable for what it is. Now, I'm not going to jump out and say this bow is going to drive tacks or anything like that, because I've never seen a bow with less than a 6-inch brace height really shoot really, really well. But this does not feel like it has a 5 1/4 inch brace height. I will say that. And it's back another arrow. 351, 350. So that is 351 feet a second. I've never shot a bow at 5 grains a pound through that chronograph setup that ever did that. Hats off to PSE for creating that. Let's shoot some 450s. I'm going to make a bold statement here. That's 313 and 309, so I would trust that more than I would trust that, but shoot it again and find out. I'm going to make a bold statement here and say no one's going to beat this year. Like if this is not the fastest bow of the year, I'll be shocked. It's cooking, and you know, I don't feel hardly any shock in it. Like I really don't. I'm going to try to grip this one and focus on that, but I just don't feel anything. Like it feels relatively dead. To put that kind of speed out and not have recoil at that weight's pretty amazing. I mean, there's an initial thud to it, so 310, 311. So that's probably about what it is. So we'll call it 310. Now I wonder how much of that's this riser design and how much of it is the cam. Be interesting to try those other two we got out here and see what they do. 313, 309. So we'll give it 311. All right, here we go. 650s. And then we'll start changing the length, and then we'll change the weight.
It'll stay in the 300s.
No. 264, 262. So 263 average.
Imagine.
Duplicate. 262. 264. So that we'll go at a 263 now. 263. Hallelujah. All right, one more. Oh. This is not the easiest pulling bow in the world, but there's not humps in it. So what do I mean by that? Is there's not a spot where it feels like it's really hard to pull, 263, 263. There's not a spot that feels harder than the rest of it to pull. It's very consistent throughout, so I don't think it's going to be physically demanding of somebody to pull this bow. It's going to feel harder to pull than, like, let's say you have a Hoyt, all right? This bow is going to feel harder to pull, but it's not going to feel like drastically harder in the front or the back. It's gradual all the way through it, which is pretty impressive. So let's write those numbers down, and then we're going to change this to 29 inches and shoot it again. All right, we are back to the 450 grain arrows at 70 pounds with 29 inches of draw length this time. We'll see what we're losing per inch here. 293, 290, so we'll take an average of 292. 301, 302.
I was about to say,
yeah.
That's crazy if you're dropping
Yep.
60 feet per second.
Well, and that, let it be a lesson to you that fletching contact can slow your shit down a lot. All right, so we'll give that a 302 because it technically hit over 302 on that one. 302. 298, 299, 302, so we'll call that 300 for a whole day. 299. All right, what do we have it at before? Our average was what, 301? So right at 300?
Yeah.
All right. And now, class, this is what we're going to call realistic arrow speed. A couple of us in the industry, T-Bone, Scotty, a couple others I've talked to, we all kind of mutually agreed that this is what we really would like to see bow manufacturers test their bows at for advertised speed instead of these inflated speeds that you're never going to get. So we are using a 29-inch draw length bow at 65 pounds with a 450 grain arrow. Probably the most common setup in the United States. Realistic arrow speed, here we go. Top one didn't move, 291, that ain't right. Because wasn't that what I just shot? No.
No.
Oh, dude, that's good. 293, 292.5, so we'll give us an average of 292 from the previous two. That's, once again, that's the fastest number you're going to see in this. This is crazy. 298, 290, yeah. All right, so we're going to keep it at 292 because that's not right. 292 on realistic arrow speed. Now let's get you some decibel measurements. I think this is going to surprise you, actually. So we got an 81 average on the decibel, which is, I want to say, really similar to what PSE did last year, which is really impressive with how much faster the bow is this year than last year. That's good work on there. So let me pull these arrows out and we'll do a little math for you. All right, guys, I would like to take this moment to announce to you that not everybody can afford a brand new bow, and I understand that. And out of the consideration of that, it's been multiple years of trying to make this decision, and I'm still not sure I'm doing the right thing here, but we're going to offer a used bow program. There'll be an option on the website in the drop downs for trading in your used bow. We'll have predetermined prices. You still have to send it in for an inspection. Click a couple buttons. We'll send you a box if you need one and a return label to ship us your bow. And once everything checks out, we will issue you a credit to podiumarcher.com for that bow.
And all you shops out there that are watching this that like or dislike that reality, we will also trade in your old stock or your used bows too. You can also use for a credit at podiumarcher.com, which, by the way, we resell to dealers. We have reduced prices on our website for dealers, so if you would buy a little fill-in here or there, you can buy stuff from me as well. Something to think about if you're looking at a bunch of old bows on your wall and you want to get rid of them. Just want to make that out for you. And for you people interested in buying a used bow, all our used bows will be certified used with brand new gas strings installed on them, full bow inspected, and can assemble and tune for you if need be. So something to think about if this is a little too much for your blood. And at $19.99, it might be. Who knows? So this is the fastest bow I've tested, hands down. It's not even close. Like, it's wild. We got 351 foot a second. We got 300 feet at 29 from 311. So you're losing about 11 foot a second per inch. So if you go down to 28, it's probably 289, vice versa. Still getting 265 feet a second out of your 650 grain adult arrow. And the realistic arrow speed number, which is the one that matters, and I want everybody to really try to take that into account, 291 feet a second. You're not going to see a faster number than that. I'll be shocked if you do. All right, let's try to figure this out. So speed-wise, 351. Guess what? That gets my first 15, and after this, we may have to reestablish speed score, because if they go faster than that, I got to be able to give a report, because I figured I was never going to publish an actual 350 foot a second bow. Weight, 3.9. Is that what we came up with? Yeah, 3.9. It's going to be a 7 for weight. Tunability. Now, I didn't talk about this, but there were no changes to the tuning system, so it still shims with a yoke that is hard, so you could yoke tune it and shim tune it. No timing options. So we're looking at, I'm going to have to give you probably like a 6 on your tunability. Integrations and features. Front mount pick, rear mount IMS, 2-piece quiver option. There's not a V-bar bracket. Integrated quiver option, which you have to appreciate to a degree here, guys. Carbon fiber is not the easiest thing to work with, so when you inset things into it, you do run into issues. We've got a hard roller guard, integrated 2-piece quiver option, front mount pick, rear mount IMS, a lot of integratable features. Not a integrated V-bar, but just about everything else integrated. I'm going to have to give you like a 7 on integration. That's pretty darn good. Honesty. I thought I was going to be massacring the crap out of this bow for its speed. It's honest. Like, that's crazy speed. The specs were all within, other than an 1/8 long on the draw length, which I want to say almost every bow I've tested has been an 1/8 long on the draw length, but it is still technically not accurate. The brace height was accurate for what they said. I don't feel like I can hardly mark it down. For honesty, I think I'll have to give it like a 13. Well, I mean, they're being pretty honest, right? Feel. Honestly, you can feel some shock in it. You can feel it want to pop forward a little bit. But in general, for how light it is, it's really, really dead. So I'm going to give you an 8 on feel. The grip, I like a lot. Design. Carbon fiber is not an easy thing. There's only a couple of bow brands doing it, and only one of them doing it in the United States. Time will tell on whether or not dynamic brace height's really a thing, and we're going to try to prove or disprove that, and that's something they're basing the premise off their products on. But the design of the bow is solid. Like, it's light, it's fast, it's relatively dead. I got to give you high marks on design as well. Value. Okay, now. Value-wise, it is a carbon bow. It is under 4 pounds. It is under $2,000, and it is fast as fuck, boy. It really is. So I'm going to give you a 4 on value. I want to give you a 5, I really do, but it's so much money. So I have a hard time giving it value. But out of everything you're trying, I mean, it's an American-made carbon fiber bow. And I'm not going to say what brand I had this conversation with, but I had this conversation with another brand. And I said, how much would it cost for you to make that here? Because there's multiples that don't make it here. And they said it would cost $4 grand. Somehow this under $2,000 carbon bow is here, made in the U.S. So I got to give it to you. Sound, you're on the higher level of sound, but it's still not bad. I'm going to give you a 3. I'm going to go back and reanalyze the numbers, and we have another decibel meter to play with, but we didn't have enough time to figure it out for this exact one, so we may redo that. Appeal. There's a lot going on here. I am scared of the 5 1/4 brace height. I'm not going to lie. I'm just being honest. But there's a lot of other stuff here that makes this bow super appealing. So because of the really low brace height and the high reflex, I'm giving you a 3. But I am going to say I don't think I've ever given anybody a 3 that had a 3-inch reflex in their bow and a sub 6-inch brace height. Okay, so this bow really has impressed me a lot. I got to be honest. So let's add it up and see what we get. 22, 28, 30, 35, 45, 48, 56, 64, 68. 68, 69, 70, 71, 74. 74. That might be the highest score I've ever given a PSE, I think. Comment down below what you think of that score and what you think of this method. Am I a gigantic idiot? Do I have no idea what I'm doing? I've heard it all, so you're really not going to hurt my feelings. Go ahead and put it down there. I do believe in the ability of free speech to be able to give your opinion. Regardless of how much I may disagree with it, you have every right to it, so knock yourself out down there. Thanks for watching. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, wait, Torquematic 5000.
Oh, yeah, duh.
Oh, wait.
There's more.
There's more. Okay, so I went back and forth on how in the world do you effectively measure the torque of a bow. And the only thing that I could fairly come up with was to bolt something onto the bow in the same spot on every bow, and the only spot on every bow that should be roughly the same is the burger hole. So that should be the same almost regardless of whatever bow you put it on. So I bolted up a stabilizer, and I'm using a pressure force gauge, and I've got one of my old draw boards with a brake on it to stop how far in the bow can go. And I give a pull on the stabilizer until it runs into the bar down there and measure how much force that took. The higher the number, the harder the bow should be to torque. Now, because this is still a new thing and I don't want to get massacred down in the comments or have brands really furious at me, we are just going to measure it and tell you what the number is and not incorporate it into the score this year. Just because it's new and I haven't had enough time to mess with it yet. So give it a whirl here. Okay, so all I'm doing, I've got a predetermined length here bolted in the same spot. I'm using my Wheeler Engineering trigger pressure gauges for setting a trigger on a gun. We are also using this for testing trigger pressure on crossbows triggers. But I'm pulling on this until that stabilizer touches the bar. The higher number I get, the harder the bow is to torque. .98. Do it again. 3.108. Do it again. 3.12. So we're going to go with an average of 3.12 on that bow. Like I said, we are not giving this a score because I haven't done this enough to fully prove this is an accurate way to measure it. But that is right up in the alley of ones I tested and played with yesterday on last year's bows. So we're going to give that on the board a 3.102 average for torque. Tell me how dumb this idea is too. Put it down there. And being fair with it, I mean, how hard is it to make a bow turn left or right? Seems like a pretty fair way to test it. But why don't you tell me how smart you are down below and how I should have done?